Hi everyone, good morning. Oh, it's such a beautiful morning here in Saskatoon. Um, it's warm. I don't need a jacket and there's no wind. The river is like glass. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful this morning. So this morning, I'm doing my day 10 of my video challenge, and today what I want to talk about is kind of do a summary on emotional intelligence. And this topic's going to carry me through a few videos actually, because I want to kind of talk about what emotional intelligence is and how we evolve to have high emotional intelligence, and really how that's linked to our mindset. And so I always prided myself as somebody who thought they had really high emotional intelligence, because I'm very good at being able to identify other people's emotions and be really empathetic towards them. But what I've learned about emotional intelligence is that, it's something that requires work. It's like a muscle, it's a skill. And there's a lot of components to emotional intelligence. So when we look at what is emotional intelligence, it's really the ability to be aware of our emotions, to be able to control them, and being able to express them in a really constructive way, but also how it affects our interpersonal relationships. So how we also identify other people's emotions and be able to be empathetic and kind in those situations. And so I was doing a little bit of research, just kind of looking at, when somebody has high emotional intelligence, what is that? And so, the research really says that there's kind of 13 things that define somebody with high emotional intelligence. And, over the last, few years, I've been doing a lot of counseling and a lot of self-work. And what I'm realizing is that a lot of the stuff that I've been doing is really improving my emotional intelligence. And it's really been improving my mindset. And how I interact with the world and how I interact with myself. And that's the biggest piece for me. I'm really good at treating other people well. I'm not so good at treating myself well. And so that's where I'm working on, the things that I'm working on to get better. So right now what I want to go over is just the 13 things that have been shown to be to define people who have high emotional intelligence. And then I'm going to break those things down and talk about, more in detail what those things are, and kind of share a little bit about the things that I do to improve those qualities, and share, which qualities that I'm struggling with more. So the first is just awareness, that we really think about our feelings, and we ask ourselves questions about where this is coming from, what are we really feeling? The second is really pausing when we have these emotions and not being reactive, and that's not an easy thing to do. I think we're all guilty of that, and there's times in which we're better at that than others. The third is that we can strive to control our thoughts. And so, somebody once said to me, you can't necessarily avoid having a bird land on your head, but you can avoid it making a nest, right? So we can have thoughts, but we don't need to get on to feeding those thoughts and letting them perpetuate. The fourth is that we all benefit from criticism, right? And so when somebody reacts to us in a negative way or gives us criticism, even if it's not done in a tactful way, really looking at, okay, what can we learn from it? And that's not easy either, right? The next is the fifth thing is, being authentic, really speaking our truth and being honest. And that's something that I definitely struggle with. I hate to hurt people's feelings. I don't like confrontation. And so learning to kind of speak my truth, to honor myself and honor my feelings, but doing that in a really kind, compassionate way is a skill, and it's not easy. The next is like demonstrating empathy. So really having an ability to be able to understand other people's point of view and where they're coming from, and maybe sometimes looking beyond their reaction and seeing that it really is there's something else. The reaction really isn't the issue. It's that there's something else that's more deeply that's coming through. And so not taking things so personally. Praising other people, is a really important. I think sometimes we all appreciate being praised and hearing that we've done a good job. And I think sometimes we go through life and people really don't understand how much we appreciate them. And it's something that I try to do on a daily basis, is saying thank you to the people that I work with, thank you to my husband, telling him that I appreciate the small things that he does, because sometimes we can really get bogged down by only hearing the negative. And so, praising people and complimenting them. People are always shocked when I say, oh, I really like your outfit, and it could be a stranger. But you can see that it makes you feel good. Giving helpful feedback. So it's really important. I think we all need feedback. And so doing that in a really kind and compassionate way, that's a skill to be able to do that. Doing it so that we don't hurt somebody's feelings. The next is really apologizing, right? Being a right fighter is really not helpful, right? And so certainly there's sometimes we are right in a situation, and there's a way in which we can identify how we might be right, but how we can identify that our intentions were not to make somebody upset, and apologizing, because sometimes it really can stamp out some long drawn out thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean just because you apologize, it does not mean that you are validating somebody's behavior, especially if it's validating or understanding somebody's point of view that you disagree with. And I think that's sometimes where people resist apologizing, because they don't want to validate bad behavior or a point of view that they strongly disagree with. And just because you apologize does not mean that you're saying you're agreeing with that, right? And so really teasing out the two is important. Forgiving and forgetting, right? There's much power in forgiveness. And so just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean that you forget, but forgetting is important, because when we don't forgive somebody, it's like keeping a knife in a wound. They move on with their lives, but we're allowing them to keep our emotions hostage. And so then we don't move on with our lives, right? And so that's a really important thing to do. Keeping our commitments. So if we're saying we're going to do something, we do it, regardless of how big or how small. And so, bailing on watching a movie with somebody, not a big deal. But when you bail all the time on, work commitments or commitments to children, which is a huge thing, because kids do not forget. And though, it makes you end up having a reputation for being unreliable and untrustworthy. And keeping your commitments to yourself is equally important, right? Because generally as moms, as career women, we tend to put everybody first, and we tend to be really untrustworthy towards ourselves. That tends to be a bigger problem. Number 12 is helping other people. So, helping other people, because, people don't care about where you graduated university, how much money you have, what car you drive. What you're going to be remembered for is how much you cared and how much you gave to other people. That's what your legacy is about. Giving people a few extra minutes to validate how they're feeling, or going out of their way to helping them. That's what they're going to remember about you. And the last thing is protecting ourselves from our own emotional sabotage. Right? We sabotage ourselves emotionally on a daily basis. And this is something that I struggle with the most. So I hope these are interesting things. I think they're interesting things because these are the things that I've been really working on the last few years. And now realizing this is all tied into emotional intelligence and how important emotional intelligence is to making sure our mindset is right. Because if our mindset is right, we have a high vibration, and that brings us abundance and love, and we're we're living our life from a point of view of love and not fear, right? And we're not closing ourselves off from all these wonderful opportunities, but we're also living in the moment and enjoying this moment here, and not, you know, in a rat race being resentful about our lives. Anyways, so thanks for watching. Good morning, Faye. Hi, Donna. Hi, Denise. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Karina. I'm enjoying the beautiful weather and not having to wear a jacket. And oh, I'm enjoying that there's no wind. Saskatchewan is so windy, and today there's not even a breeze, and it's beautiful. So have a wonderful day. I thank you all for watching, and I hope the next upcoming videos are going to be wonderful. So let me know how, in the comments, if you think that you have high emotional intelligence, or if you think that it's something that you need to work on, or if you've learned something. What have you learned in this video that you didn't realize was related to emotional intelligence? Anyways, give me a comment below. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.